Hey everyone, welcome to Planning Instruction. This is our first webinar as part of the Leading Learning series from Lead Forward. My name is Justin Richardson and I'll be your tour guide today. Our purpose is to explore the resources on the Lead Forward website. We're going to take some time to find the resources and then just a brief look at what they contain. Then we'll give your leadership team an opportunity to think through how you want to share these resources with the rest of the staff. Okay, let's get started. When you look across the top of the Lead Forward homepage, you'll notice that there are several options. One, you can click on All About Us. If you want to learn more about the Lead Forward crew, feel free to go explore there. Then you'll notice the Resources tab. That's what most of this webinar will be dedicated to. Then you can also find information about workshops that Lead Forward offers, the different services that Lead Forward has, and then anything in the online store you could click and go explore there. Okay, let's go to the Resources tab. Now on the Resources page, you'll notice lots of great information. And let's just explore this one from left to right at the top of the page. First of all is the Content Builder Resources. That's where we're going to come back to look at a lot of the resources we'll use for planning instruction. If you click on the Data Tools tab, you'll notice information here about the frequency distribution of tested items. And you'll also notice if you scroll down the page that there are lots of step-by-step directions for running our data tools. Now if we go back to the top and keep working our way across, the next tab is Accountability. Here you'll find lots of the quick looks for the latest and accountability updates. This is a really popular tab, especially at the beginning of the year. Then you'll find the Performance Standards. The resources under the Performance Standards tab, it's all about helping us understand the performance levels related to STAR. Then you'll find the Test Accessibility tab. The resources on this tab are dedicated to helping people understand testing accessibility. Then, one of our most popular tabs, the Instructional Tools. This tab houses the Instructional Strategies playlist, one of our most popular downloads from the website. And then finally, the Learning Videos. If you don't remember what we talked about when it comes to the different resources, go to the Learning Videos and you can get a deeper look at many of the resources we talk about in this video. Now before we jump in and explore the resources, let's take a second and pause the video. Principals, work together with your leadership team and just go explore the resources that we've introduced already. We talked about the crew at Lead Forward. If you want to go learn more about us, you could go there. The different workshops and services we offer or the online store. And then we clicked on the Resources tab and we talked about the Content Builder resources. We're going to spend some time on those in just a second. And then we shared the data tools, all of those accountability tools, the different performance standards and the test accessibility resources. And then we kind of teased the instructional tools. We're going to come back to that one also, so don't dig into that one too much. And then the different learning videos. Just take a second and go explore. Pause the video and we'll come back together in just a moment. Well, the purpose of this webinar is to come together and explore the resources we'll use for planning instruction. Most of those resources can be found on the Content Builder Resources tab. Now, when we look at the design of this tab, you'll notice most of the resources are organized by grade level, and you can see across the top the name of the resources. So we're going to look at the snapshots first, and then we're going to move over and look at the student learning reports, and I'll show you how those two resources really build off of each other. And then we'll fill the middle in with the scaffold, the release test, and the academic vocabulary. For the purpose of this webinar, I'm going to use grade 6 to model those different resources. Let's start by looking at a snapshot. We're going to look at math to begin with. The snapshot actually isn't a tool we'll use for planning instruction, but it is important to understand this tool to look at the overall design of the standards. In this example from 6th grade math, you can see that we start with the process standards, then we follow that by the knowledge and skills statements, and then finally the readiness and supporting standards. The snapshots are organized based on the standard type and the design of STAR in the reporting categories. Now, the companion piece to the snapshot is really the one that we want to spend some time looking at, and that one's called the Student Learning Report. So let's go take a look at it now. We're back to the resources page, and to find the Student Learning Report, we just go to the opposite end of this page, and we're going to pull up a math example for this one also. Looking at the design of the Student Learning Report, you'll notice those same standards from the snapshot moved over onto the Student Learning Reports, but this time they'll be broken down and organized into clusters. This particular cluster that we're looking at is representing comparing rational numbers. Now, within that larger cluster, there are some concepts that we could bundle together. We call those subclusters, and you can see the subclusters on this Student Learning Report are representations and comparisons. Now, you'll notice under each subcluster that we have standards, readiness, and supporting standards when applicable. You'll also notice the process standards. We place those on the ends to almost act like bookends for the content. You'll see process standards tools to know on the left-hand side. That's how we get kids started, how we engage their brains, how we help them find problem-solving models. And then you'll notice the ways to show on the left side. Ways to show talk about how we want students to communicate their idea and represent their learning. You'll see an opportunity to collect data on the Student Learning Report. If you're at Eduphoria, DMAC, or School City District, you can go through and populate those checkpoints with state or local data to help us make instructional decisions. The Student Learning Report is going to be the resource we use to launch our conversations about planning instruction. We'll focus on this resource in Webinar 2. Back at the Content Builder Resources page, take a second, principals, pause, and go explore the snapshots and student learning reports with your leadership team. Based on the design of the standards and the different subjects, you'll notice some variations in the snapshots and some variations in the student learning reports. It's important for you to be familiar with those before we introduce them to the rest of the staff. Now, if you want more in-depth understanding of these two resources, I would invite you to go back to the tabs at the top of the resources page, look all the way across to the right-hand side and find those learning videos again. When we click on the learning videos, you'll notice that the standard snapshots have a video and the student learning reports have a video. Take a second and watch those if you need to so that you can gain a better understanding of how each subject is represented in those two tools. Pause the recording and go explore. Now that you've had a chance to explore the snapshots and the student learning report, let's go back to the Content Builder Resources tab and let's explore the next two resources. When we scroll back down to 6th grade, we're going to look for two resources in the center of the page. This time we're going to start with academic vocabulary. The academic vocabulary tool and the IQ release test will be the resources we explore in Webinar 4 in Planning Instruction. Let's start with academic vocabulary. The academic vocabulary resource is organized by cluster. As we scroll down the page for this 6th grade math example, you'll see that first cluster that we looked at on the student learning report, representing and comparing rational numbers. You'll notice on this resource the knowledge and skill statement at the top, and then any accompanying readiness standards associated with that knowledge and skill statement. Then in the center of the page, you'll see important words for conceptual development related to those readiness standards in the cluster. You'll see words that are new to the grade level and words that have been previously introduced. You'll also notice that there's sometimes a star next to some of those words, and in Lead Forward, that's our fancy way of saying that that was used on STAR in the past. Now on the bottom, you'll notice that there are other words related to the content. These may not be the most critical to conceptual development, but we felt like they were important to have in front of you while you plan. Words are important, and we hope this resource is helpful for you as you plan instruction. Back on the resources page, we also want to explore the release test IQ. Investigating the questions, or IQ, simply takes the release test items and bundles those together based on content. Looking at the top, you'll see the clusters within that grade level. And when you click on the tab at the top, it will take you to the questions related to that cluster. Let's stay with the same one, representing and comparing rational numbers. Within this tab, you'll find items related to representing and comparing rational numbers. Let's take a look at the design of the IQ document. The questions are grouped by student expectation, and you can see that at the top. This particular question came off of the 2016 STAR test, and it was question 32. You'll also notice an item analysis using state data. This helps us just find general trends related to each of the questions. Now, the purpose for bundling similar items together is so that teachers can see the different ways a concept was assessed. You can also see the different visuals students had to interact with in order to successfully answer the question. That's going to be really important for planning instruction. When we talk about the different stimuli teachers need to model and students need to use to demonstrate their understanding. Principals and leadership teams, take a second, pause the recording, go explore the academic vocabulary resources and the release test IQ documents for your subject and grade level. Get familiar with these so you can confidently speak about these resources when you introduce them to your staff. And don't forget, the learning videos are there for both of these resources if you need more support. The final content builder resource we'll look at is the scaffold. The TEAC scaffold helps us answer the question, what should students have already learned? In this example, you can see 6.2D, a readiness standard for 6th grade math, and all of the content that underpins this standard. This is a great tool to help us start to form those early formative assessments during a unit. Where should we start instruction? Where should we begin checking for students' understanding to see if they're ready to be successful in the content that we're about to teach? You'll see the double arrows out to the side of some of the standards. That just means let's start here first. Let's see if kids can do this. And then from there, we can start to scaffold back or go ahead and move forward. We'll highlight this resource during webinar 5 when we look at evidence of learning. Now, before we leave the content builder resources to go look at the instructional tools, I want you to pause the video and do two things. First, let's explore the scaffold for your grade level and subject. And then also take a second as a team and download the Lead Forward app. In the Lead Forward app, you'll find the content builder resources there also. I want you to go in and see if you can find each of the tools that we've talked about so far in the Lead Forward app. That one's going to be really critical to planning instruction because we want teachers to have quick access to the resources right at their fingertips. So take a second, go explore the scaffold, then also download the Lead Forward app and see if you can find these same resources on the app. Those are the resources we'll use to build our content knowledge for planning instruction. Now, it's not about the resource in isolation. It's really about how we bring those resources together in a process for planning that will create a lot of power in our conversations and PLCs. However, right now, it's important to take some time and help staff just become familiar with the resources. We want them to be comfortable finding the resources and understanding the information that's on those. The more barriers we can take away early in this process, the more successful we're going to be when we start to get into the nuances of planning instruction. Now, there's one more resource that we want to explore before we're finished with this first webinar. If you scroll back to the top of the page, the resources we've been interacting with up to this point have been under the Content Builder Resources tab. We want to hop over to the Instructional Tools tab and check out a few of those resources.